thanks for coming. I hope you guys, I don't know how many of you already have a drive-thru or are looking to open a drive-thru. But me and Dylan have been working together for like 6 years now, and Dylan is a very good operator, and he's offered a lot of insights into us and how we've developed our product. Specifically around, one of the big things we want to talk about today is Swig uses an upstream ordering model, or line busting, I think we've talked about, as opposed to a box and window model. And there aren't a whole lot of, at least legacy concepts, who used upstream ordering. And I think that like our intuition around it is that seeing labor as a cost center is kind of the aversion to putting people out in a line to take those orders, when you can have somebody in store who's mic'd up, who's just doing that through a squawk box. I think our Dylan's insight that like we've been running off of is that it actually creates a better customer experience overall when there's actually a person there talking to you. And so we're going to frame some of this conversation around the InTouch Insights report. I'm not sure if anybody's familiar with it. They've been doing drive-thru studies for about 25 years now. And they go to 10 household name brands, McDonald's, Chick-fil-A, Arby's, and really get pretty granular on how they break down the processes that are happening there. And so, you know, talking about that labor cost that comes with upstream ordering, we kind of want to frame it around the cost of losing time in that drive-thru. And this number comes straight out of that InTouch report. Basically, after going through all these brands, their estimation of what you lose per unit per year when your speed of service is 5 seconds slower in a drive-thru. So that's $8,200 a year, and so all of these kind of advantages that I guess we see around the customer experience in a drive-thru and how we'll see it actually speeds it up, we'll kind of use that unit as a way to compare what you're actually gaining out of there. One thing that I actually want to ask you, because I don't think we've ever had this conversation, but when you guys started, did you ever entertain like a box and window model? Did you guys start with that, or?
We didn't start with it. It's always been a conversation of going back and forth because of the topic that you're talking about, of the dollars that it costs to operate and be outside. But we always kept being gravitated towards the idea of just a better customer experience and just being able to have that one-on-one relationship. Because the biggest thing for Swig is frequency. It's repeat customers. We want to get people through. Like a lot of people, industry standard, be like, oh, if you can have someone come in once every 30 days, that's a really good customer. We operate on the premise like we want customers, our regular customer, coming 3 to 4 times a week. And so you have to really eliminate any barriers that would inhibit them from wanting to do that. And so one of the things that draws you in is just having that one-to-one customer experience. And so it's always been critical to us, is just being able to have that conversation, ensure the order accuracy, and just get you on your way.
Yeah, and so with that, I just put up these 2 pictures to show. This is Cosmix. It's a McDonald's newest like beverage concept that they're starting to roll out a little bit. And then a new Swig where you can see the infrastructure differences of what are going on here, where with McDonald's, and this isn't like to dunk on McDonald's, they obviously have reasons for trying this out. But there's a shared understanding that there is a bottleneck in a drive-thru that has high demand. And the way McDonald's is approaching that is to expand that bottleneck by adding, now you have 4 boxes instead of 1 box, problem solved. Whereas, Swig has kind of, and anybody doing upstream ordering is kind of sidestepping that box problem, because that's where the major bottleneck occurs. Because basically anybody who's behind that box can't order. Like their service time has not started yet. So this is something, so in this InTouch Insights report, they did not ask Swig to participate yet,
Not yet.
but I'm sure they'll get there. But we actually, so I'm going to use Chick-fil-A as a little bit of a proxy because they're the only brand in that study who is also doing upstream ordering. And obviously, this isn't to say, so Chick-fil-A, this is just their total time by car, and you can see just how far ahead they are of everybody. And this isn't to say, of course, that like anybody grab a tablet, walk out in the drive-thru, and you're going to have results like this because like we've talked about, there is like some technology to it, the changes we make to the product as we discuss through things. But there's other systems in place, like how do you hire people, how do you train? So like, I don't know, outside of just like having technology that enables you to execute this business model, like, or this service model, what is like the number one thing? Like I imagine like with employee training, like how much of it is dedicated to like, here's how you approach line busting.
Yeah, line busting, like to do it, and for anyone who's not familiar, it's like we're taking all the orders at the car, and at times we'll have 3 to 4 team members who are outside taking orders, alternating between the cars, just to get them through quicker. And so there's the technological pieces that we've worked on from, our loyalty system, we have about over 70% of our customers will be in our loyalty program. So 70% of their orders have someone who's been to Swig or opting in at that moment. And one thing that's helped is like, one, it has a reference to a previous order. So like I said, about a frequency of our customers, if you come and frequent Swig and we put your phone number in the system, it's actually popping up with your previous order to cut down on that order time. So from a technological perspective of just the basics, right? You need to have Wi-Fi outside. You need to have a system that communicates efficiently. But then to your point of the team member and the training and the development, speed has just become a non-negotiable for us. Like that is one thing that we're not willing to compromise on. And so when we look at things from the menu, there's so many other items that we could add. We get brought so many items, but it's like, well, that's going to add 20 seconds to a car. Like, and when you have 20 cars in your drive-thru, like that adds up for that last person. And so when you look at it from like, yes, you need to check the boxes from a technological perspective. You need to have it where your menu is optimized for that experience. And then from a team member, we don't ever stop on development. A lot of brands could look at it like, okay, I train you for your first week or two, and then you're off to the races and you're kind of there. We have your initial training. We do benchmarking along the way. Like, so at 30 days and 60 days, we're continuing to develop and see where you're at. And then also we do modules with our GMs where we never stop having the conversation and focusing on that. So hiring's always like the trouble, right? Like that's always something we always will struggle with. It's not a perfect science. And so you obviously want to get really good at that. But the flip side is just, we've become really good at developing people. And so we have like leadership and training programs and pieces of this where it's like our employee base, our team member base, the majority of who are working the lines and part of the team is, 16 to 21. Our GMs are 22-year-olds. Like it's very young. And so we don't expect you to have all of these skills. And our objective is to develop you as a leader, give you the resources you need to lead a team. And so having the technology that simplifies that process is probably the most important for us.
Yeah, so is to say, like when we see like what a huge difference this is between these, and again using that unit of measurement against like the average speed that they pulled out of this study, that's an extra $234,000 a year at a Chick-fil-A to just like straight to bottom line. So like I don't want to say that like the entire difference can be accounted for with just this service model. There's obviously more that goes into it. But when you see a difference that big, it like definitely warrants taking a closer look at. So the next kind of like two things that came out of this report, which by the way, you can just get online from InTouch Insights. They do these every year. But this, one thing about like those speaker boxes is that when there is an issue with that hardware, it becomes a tremendous issue really fast, which, if you have a whole fleet, it can be maybe difficult. It kind of depends. You're kind of waiting for somebody to self-report that there's an issue with that hardware. But they found when there were speaker issues, like it's too quiet, people have to repeat themselves, they're losing like a full minute, which is coming down to $98,000 per unit per year that you can be losing just because your hardware needs to be updated, it had a problem. You're right next to a freeway and it's just like too loud for somebody to hear it. Doesn't handle ambient noise. So just, another benefit is you kind of get to like sidestep a lot of the infrastructure maintenance and concerns that you would normally have. And then again, with that speaker, I think there's probably a lot of overlap between these two things when it comes down to accuracy, because they found that, of course, inaccurate orders, or it's not a very good guest experience, but inaccurate orders that took longer tended to have more accuracy issues. I think, and again, they pointed to that speaker box having issues as something that adds up here. So, with that 15 seconds, it takes another $24,000 per unit per year. And then this was just another one where, when you have that one-to-one communication, the jump isn't quite as big in this case, but still like 7% of orders that don't have accuracy issues that would at another place. And this is interesting for Swig, actually, because you guys have like almost every drink is like fully customized, right? And I don't know how you guys like really think about accuracy or train for it, or
Yeah, it's definitely part of it. So we can't make your drinks before you obviously order them, because everything's customized. So you're picking your preference. You want a Dr. Pepper with coconut cream, but you want light ice and an extra pump of strawberry. It gets very technical, and it's like you can't predict that. There's no like, this is our peak time, we're going to sell a lot of these, unfortunately. So again, it's like that development process, and so pieces within the system and the people, we put labels in every drink. We used to write on every cup, and then just arthritis got kicked in, right? It just like wasn't sustainable. And so we have the labels that print. We have a KDS screen that if anything is changed, it will notify us and start blinking. But it's like, again, it's just what you kind of obsess about within the brand and the customer experience. You have to be relentless on focusing. And so it's like the accuracy is critical. And so we have multiple checkpoints as we go along the way. One of the things I think that's interesting on the topic of just ordering with the customer, because like you said in the beginning, because this is what we always go back to, is like the labor dollars that are going into it, right? And like that's one of the biggest things as a brand you have to control, right? You have to control labor. You have food costs and labor. Those are the two biggest things that you constantly have a hand on. And so it's easy to look at labor in this instance as just kind of a waste, because you could put that person inside. And we've always just looked at it as an investment opportunity, and it's like, what can we get out of this? And so as we focus on accuracy is critical, but all of these benefits that you had on the previous slide, like those are a return on investment in our perspective. And so what we see, we're able to have higher attachment. We're able to really focus on, like we have a good, honestly, the team members are the best upselling arm that we have. We can market all day, and as being over marketing, like do our best job. But ultimately, like when the team members are behind it and they're talking to you, it's so much easier to share the new cookie that we have going on or the tumbler that just came out. All of those experiences, when you really like drill into it, there are opportunities to get a return on that investment of those labor dollars, not only from what you're selling, but the customer experience and having them come back. And that's what we're like always focused on. It's if we get you to come once, sweet. But that doesn't do anything. That doesn't change the game for anyone. You need customers to come back. And so when you start to add these little pieces together and have that experience all together, kind of from the accuracy, the customer service, from just being able to have a conversation with you, all those pieces add up, and that's where we're just driving towards. We won't survive if we drop stores and we have customers come once a month. It doesn't work for us. Yeah. So this is super critical to us. Yeah.
Which is a beautiful segue. Well done. We didn't even practice this one. This is like maybe a softer metric, where again, like we might think about these things kind of being like the domain of marketing, but it was interesting from this report. They were also just one of the things, they send secret shoppers out is how they collect all this information. And one of the things that they asked people was just to rate like the perception of friendliness. Like were people friendly? And then also just like overall satisfaction, which they split into different things. This was another one, I actually didn't put this slide up, but this is another one where Chick-fil-A on satisfaction was over 90%, I think it was 91%. and nobody else broke like 73%. There's a huge jump. And so in all of those places where they lead, that like one-to-one interaction was giving, Chick-fil-A in this case, that jump up.
Something on that, like I'm curious, just like, I imagine everyone in here gone to Chick-fil-A? Yeah, maybe once? Okay, no hands, but I know you've been to Chick-fil-A. Okay, I feel like we have this conversation at Swig all the time where we are advocates of Chick-fil-A. We like waffle fries and the honey mustard. It's fantastic. The Chick-fil-A sauce, also good. This isn't promoting Swig or Chick-fil-A. But when you go to like Chick-fil-A, when you're talking about this, like the customer satisfaction, like they're always ranked the highest. But my experiences when I go to Chick-fil-A, I am having like actual no conversation with the Chick-fil-A team member, right? I'm not, if you've been to like Dutch Bros, like they're probably at the top of like, what do you have going on? Where are you going next? Like, what movie are you seeing this weekend? Like, they're very personable. I don't have that experience at Chick-fil-A. And so it's like, what is the perception of like that satisfaction? It's, they respect your time. Like, they genuinely, like, we want to get you in and on your way. They actually care. Like, they want you to be able to move through that line. The last like 10 times I've gone with my family, it's not like, oh my gosh, they said my pleasure, like satisfaction, like check. Like, that's not what you're looking for. It's just that they actually like respect you as a customer. Like, we're going to respect your time, get you in and out. And so what I think is interesting, like these correlations from my personal experiences and experience I've had with people, it's like moving that line is like your biggest way. If you're accurate and respecting the customer's time, like that is the biggest satisfaction that you can really give them outside of good food, is that like, okay, they respect me, I respect them, I'm going to come back and I trust them with my time, versus hopping in a drive-thru and you're like, well, here's 30 minutes of my day that I'm going to just kind of lose. But when you see Chick-fil-A, there may be 25 cars and you're like, I trust these guys. Like, they're going to get me in and out. And so I think as you kind of like connect these with what you said, like those soft points, is those little things that you don't really like, we're not all like Jimmy John's Freaky Fast, like that's not our advertising model. Yeah. But being able to just show that from an operational perspective makes the difference.
Like if service, a fast service is friendly service, or like is friendly service fast? There's kind of like this chicken and egg problem in like what comes out of this report. But in any case, when somebody like didn't have a friendly experience, and you look at the kind of key points that they had, like more of an open form of like, why did you think it was friendly? Why did you think it was unfriendly? And the things that you see come up are like eye contact, said hello, things that are a lot easier to do when your one job is to engage with this customer rather than maybe try to manage multiple things, or just that, there's just a speaker between you and this person. You can't like have that connection. So, yeah, that's our spiel on how great upstream ordering is. Thanks for coming.
All right, thank you, everyone.
Yeah, I think that's about it.